This is Bleeding Edge. We are on Xbox One X, and this is enhanced with a push towards a 4K resolution with no HDR support. This is a Xbox Game Pass title. It is also a Xbox Play Anywhere game where you buy it once on Xbox One or Windows 10 PC and own it on both platforms. I mention this being a Xbox Game Pass title because it is likely to stay there forever, being first party from Ninja Theory. So this is a multiplayer only focused experience with a premium style to it. And yeah, it features frantic, fast-paced action where it is a melee-focused title as opposed to being a hero shooter. So it focuses on hero characters, but has you doing more melee-based fighting and combat, with objectives being the primary goal in the game. So there are two objectives that you're working towards, depending on the match. So either you're in a match like here, where you're capturing these plot points, or another one where you're shooting containers, and it's a little bit more round based, as in, it shuffles through these rounds as you play. You capture these containers, then you try to put them on points on the maps, and that's how you score points for your team. So you'll notice the game, when it comes to gameplay, you'll probably see some lag and stuff. That's due to the Xbox servers being a little bit overwhelmed in this time, as you can imagine. But that aside, it does actually have some performance issues, I've noticed. So aside from people flying around, that's just because of the servers being overloaded. But yeah, it does actually have some performance issues and stuff, and minor things where it's like, it could have been a little bit more polished, as to say. There are a decent selection of maps, and quickly to go back to polishing, I also noticed some issues, minor ones, where it's like containers. You can't seem to break some of them, they're glitched, and some other little tiny things like that. But the maps, there is a decent selection of them. I really like the maps that they've created here. I think that they're fairly cool. I like the cyberpunk aesthetic with the weird kind of augmented style to it. I think that's really neat. And I like that the maps are really different in that they have weird things going on. Some, there's like, a train focus to them. You keep getting hit by trains, which is kind of funny. And they do have some really neat aspects to them, which I think are cool. That being said, I wish there were more of them. I feel like it's a bit limited in terms of content, game modes, and maps that you play on. There is a decent roster of characters, and I find that there's a good balance there. You got to keep in mind that with this being, like a melee-focused title as opposed to something where it is a hero shooter, you are going to have an aspect of environment where you do need to actually group it but do things in order to be successful, which is, I thought that person might not have saw me, a little bit different than what people are likely going to be used to in this situation. Oh geez, my turret guys are not doing anything, but yeah, you do actually need to group up, you do need to work together, and I do think they generally have a decent balance here when it comes to the characters involved and the action. And I do like the little personalities and quirks of them, but there's not really much of like a lore or a narrative or anything, because I mean, it's a multiplayer only title. So I do think that there is a need for having these smaller multiplayer games like this. That being said, I feel like they could have taken this experience maybe a little bit further and added something like a cooperative mode, or something that kind of has PvE elements, I suppose, on top of the multiplayer only, just to add some extra value to it. Because I definitely kind of see this being treated like Shadowrun back in the day, which was a glorious exclusive title for Xbox 360 and Windows 10 PC. But that one also kind of got like hung out to dry, as to say, and it was kind of disappointing what happened to that one. And I kind of see that maybe happening here, where it's not necessarily going to get the support it needs to grow further. Being on Game Pass is really good for it, because this is something in this era that you might typically see as a free-to-play game. And with that, I guess it's kind of nice that there's not like microtransactions and stuff that you're really working towards. I think that's really good. There are lots of stuff you can actually earn by playing, and I do actually have fun playing this game. I do find it enjoyable. I think it's kind of decently well put together. It's a generally solid experience, but with that, I can also see some faults in terms of like the limited content and the fact that this probably isn't a game for everyone. I could really see that it's going to maybe have like more of a niche type audience, because a lot of people look at this and be like, it's not quite what I'm used to. And that's, completely fine. I mean, it's definitely a different sort of game. I really like Gizmo as a character, that's why I keep playing as her. But there's, there's different kinds of characters. There's like support, and then you got more of the attack ones, and like the heavies. So they do have some variations within the roster, and I do think the character roster here is really strong and really, really weird. Like that guy that looks like he's from Guitar Hero, and then we got that big guy, and we got like the weird guy with the snake, and yeah, so they got a very interesting roster of characters, and they've got a varied selection of maps. The maps are really unique, but I wish there were more of them, I gotta be honest. And I wish there was just something else, maybe mode-wise. I do get why the limited selection of modes, it keeps players focused. I do like that all the modes are objective-based, because that promotes the teamwork element a little bit more. Are we not fighting this lady? I guess she's going to go hide back in her base or beside her teammates. But yeah, our team really isn't grouping up too well, but we're still doing good in the match, which is nice. Oh, I'm so dead. And I do like the abilities. I should also mention that as you're playing, this character, I'm so dead here, you do get these mods as you're playing, so you unlock new mods. And these are kind of how you adjust your classes. So, like my character here, I might choose to have like little turrets that will last longer, or maybe I'll have a third turret be able to put down at the same time, or something like that, or maybe more damage, or maybe less damage, and you kind of get to make those choices with your classes to kind of adjust how your characters will play in the game. It's a minor adjustment, but it is something like that. You can also tweak your board and customize it. That's why I got the hearts kind of going on here. You can change, like, there's some character skins you can get in-game and unlock, or, well, you purchase with in-game things that you earn, like in-game points. So it's got some interesting aspects to it. Now, when I look at the game, I want to talk about the visuals and the aesthetics. So I do really like the, cyberpunk-esque kind of look to it, just because it's got that weird futuristic thing. And I think there's a bit of an edge of, like, Mad Max style gameplay going on here, as weird as that sounds, especially with the one map that's more like desert like. But you get the sense of what I'm saying, where it's just like these weird kind of cut up characters that are all strange and mismatched, and I think that kind of works out well for it. I do kind of wonder though, for like the visuals here, I don't find them to be anything like, I don't know, necessarily groundbreaking when it comes to like the cell shaded style of look. That's kind of what it aspires to. And I'm wondering why we're having such like performance issues outside of like problems with the connection. Again, that is more of like, during the virus at this time are pounding the Xbox Live servers, and I'm imagining every server for everything online. So just think of that from a future perspective, why we're having lag. But actual performance issues, it's just kind of like a little bit perplexing, considering the game doesn't really seem to be all that complex. Like, I mean, there's not a lot of background stuff going on. It's kind of like a very simplistic map. There's not even like a whole lot of particle effects between the characters. It's just weird. And like the aesthetics, I do like them, but I thought maybe they could push this a little bit more, because it looks, I don't know if outdated is the correct term for it, but it does look a bit aged, and especially when you compare it to something like Crackdown 3, which is maybe not the best comparison for most people, but they do contain a similar art style with the cell shading, and I find that one's got like a much higher quality visual element to it in comparison to this one. But I do think this looks cool. Like, the characters are really funky, they're really weird. I like the look of the maps because they're simple, but with the simplicity I was kind of expecting more of like an absolute solid sort of performance and style. But we've got more time, so we'll show off a little bit of another match here as we continue going into this. So we got into another match here just to show off a different map, because I actually ended up the same map game type last time again. So we're continuing along, showing off the gameplay. We didn't get the canisters one, but showing off at different levels so you get an idea what that looks like, and apparently a different character, because both the characters that I usually play as were taken by people. So this is the support one. I find this guy really easy to kind of kill for other players, so I don't really like playing as him too much, but work towards the health achievement. So yeah, generally I think this is a very interesting game. I think it's a nice smaller multiplayer title, something to enjoy for a bit. you know, this could actually be something you really like. You don't necessarily know until you give it a whirl, because it is something that is, you know, distinctly different from other multiplayer experiences, especially the really crowded kind of hero shooter experience of today. This guy's just going right to hide near the rest of his teammates and try to take off that guy. Yep, nice play, but I'm gonna die too. So it's got an interesting balance of characters and a nice focus on teamwork, which I really like. Again, I do actually quite enjoy this title. I find it very interesting. I find it to be very different, and I don't mind having these smaller multiplayer options out there to play because, you know, they are different. I would like to hopefully see it get expanded in the future with updates, which the Xbox Game Studio titles have been really good at doing, you know, in recent times. Oh jeez, that guy's getting away. Okay, let's see if we can quickly drive over here and finish this guy off. Yeah, I don't think so, buddy. And I think it's good to have options like this, because this could be something that someone really likes, or you might really like it, because it is different, and it being on the Game Pass will help it a lot. But I do wish to see more of an expansion on content, maybe modes and additional maps, because there's an alright selection, but I felt like they could have done a lot more with this. It definitely does feel and come across as like a bit of a lower budget offering, and not like the high-end first-party experiences that I'm kind of hoping to keep seeing on the platform. It's a little bit, it's alright. Like, it really is just kind of a really average, alright sort of multiplayer title. It has elements to make it fun, but I don't necessarily see myself playing this in the long run. It's more of a enjoy now and then kind of move on sort of experience, at least for me. Which is fine, but when you're making multiplayer titles like this, especially in the first party, I think there needs to be more of a focus on the longevity of the title and being something that can be that next AAA experience that you build outwards over time. And while they do some really neat ideas, this is definitely 100% like a unique sort of multiplayer game. I can't think of anything that does the hero fighting aspect. I think that's kind of cool, and it plays out really well here with a good sense of balancing to it. But yeah, it's just not quite as developed as I would like, or not as expansive as I would like. And I get maybe why that is to a degree, but I still would like them to kind of take that further. And I'm not doing a very good job of healing my teammates now that I'm thinking of it. As the healer, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I think the presentation is good. I like the integration for the showcase stuff, because you can like watch other matches in action, which is kind of cool right from the menu. I think that's a nice touch. And I think it kind of plays into what they're doing these days on the Xbox ecosystem in regards to like broadcasting and showcasing. So overall, average, alright, solid sort of multiplayer shooter that's a little bit lacking in content and modes. It has a good roster of characters. It has a unique style of gameplay to it that I do find fun, and I think if you give it a try, you'll find it fun too. You know, I thought aesthetically, I like the look, but I felt they could have maybe made it look even better. It's weird that there are some minor performance problems. It's a little bit strange. I hope they clean that up, and hopefully we see more content, because it does kind of feel a little bit limited in regards to, you know, what we're getting here. But yeah, that's Bleeding Edge, a Xbox Game Pass debuting title that will likely stay on there forever because it's first party. You know, multiplayer focused, Xbox Play Anywhere, and that is the Bleeding Edge. Gotta heal this guy.
Objectives activated.
Deploying protection.
He is lost.